Welcome, college baseball fans. It has been a while. It's ACC Central. We're finally breaking down the ACC spring season. We're halfway through summer leagues, actually coming to the end of some summer leagues. I'm joined by Micah and Nick, as always. We'll start with Micah there. Micah, how are you? And I noticed you've got a new hat there.
I did. I was given a gift tonight. I mean, I'm good. You know, it was really cool tonight. The home run derby. I didn't get to see the end of it. Unfortunately, Monty Noah Murray did not do very well. I think he had 2 home runs, and that was it, which was near the bottom of the the list. But it was fun. Got to meet up with the Chinook Eatery guys and spend some time with them, which was good because we kind of did a little bit of almost a pre-podcast practice because we got to. Someone's, by the way, got some echo on their thing, so just an FYI. Whoever's got me turned up too loud. But anyways, we talked about how Omaha went, so it's kind of neat to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think it might be me on the echo. Nick, why don't you keep talking while I fix this? Nick, how are you doing?
Doing pretty well, man. I'm happy to be back with you guys. It's been way too long. I can't believe it's already been a month, really, since the season's ended. But it's good to be back. Took some time off. Took a couple of trips. And, yeah, just kind of gearing up. Seeing some new faces from the Wake Forest team coming in throughout this week. So that's been really cool. Like Micah, I was telling Monty, I've met Wake Forest's new starting pitcher, Matt Bedford from Notre Dame. So that should be very interesting for the Deeks, but he's a good guy. Gotten to know him a little bit. He's very excited, but yeah, I've been doing well. Can't complain too much.
Well, we'll see if we can give you some reason to complain once we talk about these final grades.
I'm
here.
Sure.
How do you want to start this, Micah? I know we've been trying to get this show together for a while. By the way, I've got some new gear as well. It was also a gift. I'm absolutely obsessed with this T-shirt hoodie. It's really soft. Thank you, Micah. And a Cape Cod hat here. Hopefully, we've got a Cape Cod show. I'm working with somebody to do a show later this week. We're just working on her availability. It's Grace Nugent who's up there right now. So hopefully we can get that going because she's actually on site and writing for the Cape Cod League, and it'd be really cool to get some some field experience firsthand from her. So hopefully we'll have a Cape Cod show sometime this week before the All-Star game for the Cape Cod, which is Saturday. But Micah, let's before we get into it, let's talk about Omaha a little bit.
What is there to talk about?
I mean, it was your second time, but your first time credentialed. It was your 4th time. I was not aware. I apologize, Micah. I forgot that you lived
4th year in a row.
Yeah, but it was your first time credentialed.
Correct. That is correct.
So what was that experience like versus just being a fan? Because you had to do some work, but it didn't really feel like work, I hope.
No, I mean, that was arguably one of the best trips of my life, Monty, between just the wildness of our animal house. I mean, a perfect mixture of characters, right? Like Noah's a one-of-a-kind human being. Our guy Harrison from SEC Unfiltered / his kind of own little thing. Like he's an interesting guy on a different side. And then there's Jake, who just loves to debate everything. And then there's Monty, who snorts so loud that you would think we lived by a freight train.
Apparently you have,
and Monty wanted to kill Jake one night, so that was one of the more entertaining nights there ever was.
And what's funny is Micah actually has a friend who snores worse than I do, so that's impressive.
Yeah, shout out to Jay if you're watching. Jay, somehow you are a worse snorer than Monty. It's a UVA thing. My 2 UVA friends are just absolute freight trains. But no, I mean it was between that and Monty. I can't believe I'm going to say this because this is an ACC show. The best part of Omaha was after everything ended, to be honest, for the ACC. Those 2 days, those off days, just hanging around everybody.
Yep.
I think it would have been better for me, Monty, if I didn't show up late. Like I got a day, to kind of do that before everything started. Because I hit the ground running, I never got to really appreciate anything until it slowed down for a couple days. So between going to Stadium View and meeting my guy, Greg over there, and then on top of that, taking batting practice in Omaha, like I'm already I can't believe I'm going to admit this on the show, but maybe I'll hold myself accountable. I have been going and doing some workouts, but I'm also got a connection now to some cages. My goal is to take batting practice in Omaha and actually hit one out next year. I hit one to left field that was probably 30, 40 feet short, and I am determined to hit one out next year. So I mean, between that and just like we had two of the best fan bases in college baseball left, so that was really fun. Tennessee fans were great. A&M fans were great. So I mean, overall, it was just a really fun time.
Yeah, you would not have had a chance to do some of the things that you did if you had gotten there beforehand. Like I didn't get to do any batting practice or do any of those things. So, I think it worked out well. I was very jealous of the 2 off days where, you guys got to go explore some things, and the batting practice really upset me because I was like, man, that would have been sick. But Nick, you had to have even worse FOMO than I did, right? Because you missed the whole thing.
I did. I think Micah and I think we talked on the phone one time when you were up there, Micah, and I asked because like we were there last year together, and I just didn't really. Well, it wasn't even a question. It was more of, hey, the atmosphere is like 10 times better than last year, right? And Micah was like, oh my god, yeah. I mean, you got fan bases that were just in terms of student body are huge, right? NC State, Carolina, Tennessee, A&M. Where compared to last year, you had Oral Roberts and, Wake showed up, but I mean, it's a very small school.
LSU had to carry it.
Yeah, LSU and some Tennessee had to carry it. It was night and day. I could just tell from watching the games that the stadium was way more packed game for game. So yeah, I definitely had some FOMO going on, but I think this year, my take on the World Series this year was that I think for the first time in a few years, we got a true, 2 best teams in the finals, right? You could go back to last year. You could argue that LSU Wake Forest was really the 2 best teams. And you could go back the year before that. Ole Miss was a Cinderella story. You would go back the year before that. Well, we never know if NC State was going to make it or not to the finals, and who knows, 2020, we didn't have a season. So I think for the first time in a while, we had the 2 most deserving best teams, and it really played out honestly, it was a lot of fun to watch. So I enjoyed watching, and I enjoyed all the content you guys did. It seemed like a lot of fun.
I didn't watch a single second of the National Championship Series.
Well, you missed some incredible.
You might as well have been one of the players that were eliminated in Omaha. It's I'm not going to watch the finals.
I was devastated after watching. It was, what was it, 3 straight days of elimination or 4? It was 4 straight days.
It went as worse as possible. It couldn't have gone worse.
Yeah, it was 4
Nick.
straight
I will
days of watching an ACC team get eliminated, and that just was so brutal. And then driving home, I was like, I'm out. I'm just going to relax and sleep all weekend.
Nick, it was interesting because, I mean, to this day, one of the more emotional things I witnessed was you and the Wake guys at the hotel, obviously 2 years ago.
Right.
I would argue, though, the combination of everything we saw was just if it weren't for the fact that I had so much fun at Stadium View the day after, Monty, I could not have done that drive back. I was so numb that morning when I woke up. Thankfully, between Grace, who you're hopefully going to have on the show, Bella and Harrison and I all went and just kind of did some things. Some of them went to the zoo. I stuck around, did wiffle ball, and then spent 2 hours at Stadium View. The combination of everything we did with all of that, kind of took my mind off of it. And then, that night we went to the hotel bar that A&M was in, which Nick, just for visual purposes, was the same hotel that Wake had.
right
there, right behind. And so, we were there, and that's where I met Billy Lucci of Texags, and we talked a lot of college baseball, what A&M's looking like. Obviously that at that time, we were talking about like the possibility of Schlossnagle leaving for Texas, and like how it wasn't a complete zero chance. Obviously, what happened later on, so there was just so much stuff going on, right? That it kind of took my mind off of it, but at the same time, like it was, I think what was most brutal was people recognized me in game one as the just means less guy. And, again, the SEC people were giving me, poking some fun. And again, I mean, it's all fun, right? We're the just means less page for a reason. But it was definitely just, seeing guys like AMAC scoop up the dirt, Alberto Ozuna from UNC crying his eyes out. I'm glad he gets to play another time at the D2 level.
Like Cags hugging Tibbs.
Yeah, I mean that was seeing Cags cry. I know it wasn't ACC related, but I mean I think you were down on the field for that, Monty, when Florida got eliminated. But like seeing Cags cry with his teammate, like all of the teams. Obviously, there was a lot of ACC teams we saw have that happen to, but just that feeling of just pure obviously, Monty, it's not the same thing, but the nostalgia, like that national championship moment was insane. You got one side crying happy tears. You got the A&M guys knowing they were one run away. They battled back late in that game 3. A couple bounces early, and who knows how that game plays out. It was really it was an honor to see the beauty, both positively and negatively, right, of the sport.
Yeah, I spent 20 hours just thinking about what if and kind of reflecting on the drive back, because I had a 2-day drive back, and then by the time I get back, I'm so exhausted, my butt's sore from driving, and I just did not have any motivation to watch the national championship series at that point. I'm still bitter at Tennessee or A&M, which I'm glad Tennessee won. I like Tennessee. I have a soft spot for some reason. I don't know why for the Volunteers, but yeah, it sounds like it was a fantastic series, great for baseball, but Micah, I'm going to start with Nick, even though he wasn't there. What was your highlight of the College World Series remotely from afar?
Good question. Kind of cliche, but I think Tony's little interview after they had won it all, I think was really iconic. They talked about how Tennessee hadn't made a regional since I think it was 2005 until he took it over. And every year he's gotten closer and closer and closer to the end goal, which is to win it all. I remember Notre Dame knocking them out early where they were number 1 in the country. There were a few times where Tennessee looked like they were going to win it all, dating back like a few years when Tony started. But I think that was one of the more iconic moments, is that just that relief, that monkey off your shoulder. I built this thing since I started. It's been progressively getting better every year. And I think that's just been so satisfying to watch, is that you've built it and it's done. And now you're at the top of the game. Continue to build off of that. See what other levels you can take it to.
Yeah, Tony V is one of the great characters. Micah, he even won Micah over, which is not an easy thing to do. I've been trying to do it for years. No, I'm just kidding.
Micah, I know you a year.
I know. Yeah, well, yeah, that's the part that's not true. Okay. No.
Yeah, true.
What do you think your highlight was, Micah? It's going to be difficult because you were there over a week, so lots of options.
I think the highlight for me, Monty,
the Testicle Festival.
Yes. Rocky Mountain oysters were fantastic. Shout out to the Testicle Festival. No, I think the most special, most memorable thing, and it's a culmination of stuff. It's not just in Omaha, was the start to finish, from when the ACC tournament started till the very last day, literally game 3, where I'm stopped by some Wake fans that are, Nick, Brandy Coots, that family, they were out there from Tennessee, but they're obviously Wake people too. They stopped me and, just said hello and everything like that, and said thank you for what we do. And I think that was just from the Georgia Tech guys getting amped up after a delay before UNCW because they saw me, to me being the goofball known as the guy sitting behind home plate wearing both teams at the ACC tournament and getting recognized there, to obviously all the way through what the recognition I got at UNC and at Clemson, getting the third out ball that sent North Carolina to Omaha. Like, just the whole culmination of that, like seeing what hard work we all put in being worth it. Like, people did appreciate it. Like, it wasn't just like we're just blowing smoke up our rear. Like, did we touch millions of people? No. But did we get a core of ACC folks that have always liked baseball, more interested, more involved, more in tuned? I think we did. So I think that was probably the most humbling and most just memorable thing, was seeing the hard work that all of us, Monty, and obviously you, Nick, put in to make this happen.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
Top that, Monty.
Yeah, I'm not going to. It's going to be kind of selfish, but no, the access to the players was really cool. But talking to Duden and talking to Jamie and hearing them tell me what they liked my memes, and getting to talk to some of these players and learn more about their personalities, but also the colleagues that we met as well, the various people that we met and hung out with. I didn't know Harrison before this. Bella, obviously, Grace is great. So and then just some of the media personnel for some of the individual teams. I'm it was good to see my UVA people there, because I didn't get to go last year, and it was one of the sports directors for one of the local news stations, her last event. She is moving on to a different job. So just all the people that we met was really, really cool. Even the ones that we didn't even like, some of the people working the event that we just kind of talked to and made laugh for one night or something. So it was a really cool experience just to meet all those people and get some access to the players and really blow up on the memes. So
can I be annoying and add one more quick thing that popped into my head?
That's the most Micah thing to do.
I know.
Nick,
I knew
welcome
you were
to the
say
club. All you, Nick.
I think as a state guy, seeing Sam do it one more time, only pitcher in state history to have pitched in multiple College World Series. It pitched a great game too against Kentucky. But meeting his family in the Raleigh Regional, getting to know his parents a little bit, and seeing him at the podium in tears, like, I'm glad that it ended here where it all kind of started for him. Is just kind of full circle. I know their goal is to win it all, but a lot of people didn't see them even going to Omaha this year, and they did it. And the fact that I'm happy that he got signed the other day. I don't know if you guys saw, he got signed by the Phillies.
Yep.
So that was huge for him. I'm really happy that he gets a shot at proving himself. So that was very cool to see too, from 2021 being the freshman, stud that just came out of nowhere to the senior leader, to get back to Omaha and try to redeem yourself was really cool.
Yeah. Congrats to all the players that were drafted or signed contracts in the ACC. There were a lot. I kept up with it well for the first day. Second day, about 5 guys in, I was just overrun and was unable to keep pumping out graphics. But that's going to bring us to our final grades for the show. Micah and I, we each took a division. I did the Coastal. Micah did the Atlantic. We both did our final grades. We took a look at the midterm grades that we did in the middle of the season for each team, and we've come back and we've given out our final grades. Micah, how did you feel about this exercise? Nick is going to judge. He has not seen these grades, by the way.
I think part of it, Monty, is, and this is just on us, I think next year, because we split up the midterm grades, like I didn't do all the midterm grades for teams I did finals for. I think it would be fun for us to kind of, have a little more consistency. Because again, like I'm honest, I didn't even look at the midterm grades because I didn't see the point, because I knew what I gave the teams that I did do them for. But for the most part, I was like, I didn't do a ton of them. And the ones I did, I hate to say it, were kind of near the bottom of the totem pole team. So there's not too much to change. But, I think it's a great exercise. I mean, the only thing that I will recommend, because we're going to have the articles come out tomorrow. I strongly recommend you read the articles too, because obviously we'll talk about it a little bit, but I don't want to speak for your article, Monty, because I haven't seen yours. But like for mine, like you'll see the graphic and you'll be like, how did so-and-so get this grade? Well, like there are some things that factor in the overall grade that aren't a category. Perfect example is Notre Dame didn't completely fail, in my opinion, because they had the best fielding percentage in the conference, and it wasn't even particularly close. They were a top 5 fielding team in college baseball. So like it was a little bit easier for me to like be a little bit more generous with them because there's things to build upon. And like, again, expectations played a role into that, right? Like, Wake Forest got judged a little bit more harshly just because of the expectations comparatively to like, again, Notre Dame, where none of us really expected much from them this season. So that kind of played a role into it too. So it was a fun exercise. And I mean, Monty, I think it was most fun to go back and just kind of relive some of the stuff, right? Like, obviously I had the Atlantic teams reliving the frustrations, but also some of the peaks with Louisville baseball. And looking at like, just what it means for next year, reliving like the Florida State run. I mean, deep diving some of the stats to see how I completely forgot how special Carson Dorsey was. And so you look more at the stats and you're like, man, like this team doesn't get to Omaha without Carson Dorsey.
All Monty team member.
Yeah, that right. Exactly. So like those types of, just going back and remembering some of that stuff, like seeing just some of the, again, Nick, I didn't realize that Garrett Pennington led the conference in doubles. Did you know that? I didn't know that.
I did.
So
also an all Monty team member.
So just some of these, I mean, I knew he was a doubles machine, but I didn't realize he was the best in the conference. I didn't realize AMAC was second.
I knew they were going back and forth because I think I tweeted at one point that now AMAC's tied.
To relive some of that stuff and remembering that they were having great years, but just like how special the seasons really were.
Yeah, and congrats to both those guys on their undrafted free agent contracts. I saw that AMAC had officially signed, like the picture and everything, with the White Sox, and Pennington. I think went to Detroit. Good for them. But we'll start with Micah's. I guess we're gonna. I've got it, so we're just gonna toss up the whole graphic. I guess
that's fine.
So here we go. These are the grades. As expected, NC State and Florida State get A's. Clemson gets a B+. Wake Forest with a B. Louisville with a C. Notre Dame with a C. And Boston College with a C- overall. Nick, first reaction to Micah's grade. Let's start with NC State. What's your first reaction there?
I think Micah's got I'm going to sound so biased, but I knew you would. No, I think Micah's got it right. I think maybe my bias comes where I could be a little bit more harsher on the starting rotation with State because Dom Fritton had his struggles. Logan was in and out of the rotation for a while. But I mean, State looks great. I like them being like the overall best grade for the Atlantic Division. What was the other part of the question? Were you just asking me about State or the whole thing?
Quick reaction to State, because I just wanted to get your biased one out of the way.
Okay, so yeah, that's my reaction. I think State deservedly. I think all the teams here, they had not the lowest expectations, but they exceeded the most. I think of everybody, in my opinion, because I had Florida State going to the World Series to start the season.
I would like to see proof of that.
I'm almost positive he's not lying, Monty. I think this is actually Nick, because Nick and I debated before. I think we really started working together, Monty.
I don't think he's lying either. I would just like to see the proofs that we can throw.
Nick, pull the receipts, kid. Let's find them.
Yeah, there's an episode. There's definitely an episode before we hopped on with you guys where Mike and I were debating between Florida State and Louisville who would have the biggest improvement. And I said I think Florida State's got a good shot to go to Omaha. So
all right. Well, we'll see if we can pull that. We see if we can pull that and then throw it in people's faces about how smart we are.
I'm so glad Micah's got my back.
Both Micah and I will somehow take credit for that. Thank you.
Yeah, I took the Louisville side. I walked so Nick could run.
Okay, so
I think he's got Wake right too.
That one was tough. He actually, when he sent the grades to me, he had some issues with Wake. Do you want to talk about that, Micah?
Yeah, I think Wake was tough because I'd Wake graded the same way as Clemson. Originally, it was a B+ overall, and I had to drop it just because it was fun. I talked to the Chinook guys about it a little bit today, and I think all of us here are in agreement that we really like what Wake Forest has, right? We think Tom Walter is the right guy for the job. We're big fans of what he's done at Wake. Obviously, some of the best assistant coaches in the game between Salento and Mascara. So, there's a lot to be excited about. But you'd be lying if you said this season was a complete disappointment. You just have to be honest with yourself, right? Like, you're the first program in college baseball history to have 3 top 10 picks. You're the unanimous preseason #1 team in the country. And unfortunately, right, they don't even win a postseason game, like obviously the field of 64. They are also, it wasn't even fair or not. I mean, we like Evansville. But Evansville, right? They came out of that regional, so it's really tough to see the season as a major success, right? I'm not going to fail Wake Forest for that, but just considering expectations, and again, you look at the tiers, you've got 2 Omaha teams in the A. The B+ is the team that was 2 wins away in supers. You got the team that made the postseason and then kind of works its way down, right? Missed the postseason, but was on the cusp. Just missed ACC tournament, and then obviously the disappointment, unfortunately, that was the first year on Todd Arenado at Boston College. So it was just tough. I mean, some of it too kind of came down to the bullpen. How do you judge them? Because you had some quality arms, but again, you had some guys that struggled. The pitching staff couldn't stay completely healthy. If you read my article, you'll see there are a lot of reasons why, unfortunately, it just didn't work for Wake, between injuries, between timing. It's the positive and the negative of the portal era, right? Sometimes guys need to find their groove. One thing that was really fun to watch this year was seeing Seaver King kind of come into his own, playing, stepping up from D2 to D1 and then getting a top 10 pick like he did. That one was really tough because it was a very good season for Wake Forest. I mean, they should have I put this in the article. They should have hosted a regional. I mean, they were one of the 16 best teams going into postseason play. Unfortunately, though, things just didn't play out well. And, obviously, I mean, I think Nick and I, and maybe you can agree with this, Monty, going into the year, that was probably the team we were most confident in of going to Omaha. Yep. And unfortunately, it just didn't happen. And again, just a tough postseason. It was kind of the epitome of Wake Forest this season. They were very hot and cold. I saw a really good Wake Forest team against Virginia Tech, and that's when they got hot. We saw some cold streaks where, they lost the series at Notre Dame. So, it's just kind of an epitome of the season, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think everyone in our predictions article had Wake Forest and Omaha except for me. I think that was one of my hot takes, is that Wake Forest wouldn't make Omaha, but my 2 teams that did also didn't make it. It was Clemson and Duke. So the 2 ACC teams I did have making it also didn't make it. So I don't know how much credit I should get for that.
Hey, look at Monty here trying to dunk on Nick. I had a better take than you.
I don't think so. I think the Florida State one's better than saying Wake Forest won't make it to Omaha. Real quick, Wake Forest bullpen grade is a B. I wanted to point out their midterm grade for bullpen was a C. So the second half of the year, that bullpen really stepped up, which we know they did with the return of Cole Rowland. Really solidified that bullpen and gave Will Ray a little bit of rest.
Yeah, and that's part of it too. Again, the injuries played a huge role into this because it just overworked so much of the arms. Again, their bench was just not fair or not, right? They had a really good lineup, but when they got banged up, some of those, when they made the run to Omaha, they had a deeper bench, right? You had a Cecilia Costello that one of those guys wasn't in the lineup every day. and you had someone you could put into the lineup that could do like not skip a beat. You didn't necessarily have that when these injuries kind of started to hit. So it just kind of speaks to again what Wake Forest has done. I mean, I put in the article too. I mean, I think I'm going to throw them in Omaha again next year. I feel pretty good about what they're doing again this year in the portal and everything. But I mean, it's unfortunately, I like to think that my rating's pretty fair, and like the rotation got a B plus, and it could have gone worse if you go off expectation because you expect this to be the greatest rotation in ACC baseball history, or you could go the opposite way and talk about how well they were because they had to step up so much. Everyone was a little bit banged up at some point this season.
Yeah, Nick, what are your thoughts on it? So you agreed with his grades here?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't been as generous on the bullpen, even though they did get the boost with Cole coming back. Also, someone sign my boy, please. He deserves it. Give him a shot. But yeah, I mean, it kind of just to put a bow on it, like what Micah said, it was a season full of expectations. You had 5 top 25 prospects. You had, at the end of the day, you had 3 guys go in the top 10 in the MLB draft, and you went 0-2 in regionals. But there's a lot of good to come out of it. I mean, you had, like Micah said, D2 guy in Seaver King really come in his own way. Had to play multiple positions. We know he's a utility guy. He can play center field. He can play third base. He can play shortstop. He can do it all. Chase Burns was on fire. I think Chase was one of the most exciting players in the ACC and if not college baseball.
In the country.
There are a lot of highlights to take away from this 2024 Wake Forest team. I go back to their peak, I think, or not necessarily their peak, but where I felt the best about Wake Forest was the second to last week of the regular season when they swept Clemson at home. It was like, oh my goodness, Wake's back in the top 8. They have a chance to host Supers. Like they could do this. They could their struggles are gone. They look really good. It's just unfortunately that this team was not consistent. So you had a lot of freshman arms, a lot of sophomore arms that didn't have a lot of experience coming out of the pen. But overall, I think I like Micah's grading system. I like where he has every team. I think it's exactly what I would have done. You got your 2 teams in Omaha. You got your 2 teams that made regionals and got to a super regional. And then you got your bottom 3 that one of those teams was, on the fence of even making regionals. So I think, Micah, I like your list. I think it was really good.
I have a problem with something on Micah's list here. Louisville was very close to making the NCAA tournament, and he gives them the same grade as Notre Dame. I think they deserved a C+. That's probably nitpicky, but for somebody who loves Louisville, I know he's trying to give them some tough love, so maybe he graded them a little lower. He mentions that in the article, and he's talking about possibly being the motivation for next year to do better and be on the most improved list. Micah, is that why you graded them so low?
I think I just graded Notre Dame too high. I even said that in the article too. Like I thought it was like I didn't want to send you another change. I almost texted you and said give them a C- too. I think so. The way I look at it, right? C is a passing grade, like hey, like you need to improve next year, but like you didn't fail this year kind of thing. And I mean, in my opinion, like fair or not, and part of it's on me for being high on that team. They were just so frustrating. They had so many chances to really kind of put things away. They could compete with anybody in the conference. They showed that night in and night out. But I mean, we saw it with the Louisville. I mean, the perfect epitome of the Clemson or the Louisville season was that ACC tournament game against Clemson. You had every opportunity to put yourself back on the bubble, and it just doesn't go the way you hope. Thankfully, right, I don't think they wasted talent or anything this season, but I honestly, the biggest thing was I if I were to change anything with Louisville, to be honest, Monty, I might consider dropping the bullpen to a D+. I mean, the bullpen was just so rough for them
outside
this year.
Tucker Biven.
Yeah, I mean, and like you saw a pretty good Ty Stark, but you didn't really have consistency out of the pen, unfortunately. And fair or not, like Dan McDonald missing the tournament 2 years in a row, it is tough. We actually talked about it tonight with the Chinook guys a little bit. I am very scared about the Louisville program because there's a lot of conversations just about, is the investment there? And that's not a shot at Dan McDonald. Like, he's doing his best to get the resources, but like they have one of the worst player facilities in the conference.
He's taking shots at the lack of investment as well. That's why he keeps getting connected to other jobs, is because you can tell he's upset with that.
So like I want to make this very clear. This is not a shot at the coaching staff or anything like that. The fan base, fair or not, is losing interest quickly. And in the current landscape of the sport, if like we were talking about a little bit with Vandy too, like fair or not, like if Vandy doesn't wake up a little bit, they might just become a has-been. And you don't want that for a Vandy. You don't want that for a Louisville. So, it was just concerning. So I think just missing the tournament this year, and again, some of it boils down to just pure the RPI bit them in the butt. The series is with, I can't remember who the really bad series at St. Bonaventure, maybe.
I think so.
Yeah.
Like, those series just killed them. But, they did lose a game. So, like, at the end of the day, you can't afford to lose games to RPI teams that just aren't very good. So, maybe, again, it was an unfair grade in terms of them even with Notre Dame. But, I mean, and part of it, this is unfair to say, the talent at Louisville is better than the talent at Notre Dame. And Notre Dame, I think, played about as good as I could expect with the amount of young talent they had, where Louisville there were days you're just like, this team's capable. I mean, I watched them beat Florida State. I watched them beat Virginia and beat the piss out of Virginia. Like, they were capable of so much, and just sometimes, broke my heart. So I'm hoping the motivation factor, like next year, I'm just going to pick against Louisville every game, and maybe we'll get the same Georgia Tech bounce where pick against them, they win. And
then you'll take the credit.
Correct.
Nick.
Absolutely. Zion Rose, if you are watching, I'm going to tell that story real quick. So one of my favorite memories postseason, Nick, I don't know if I told you this story. I interviewed Zion right at the Appy League game in Pulaski, and obviously I introduced
against
him.
Team USA.
Yeah, he was on Team USA. Yes.
Right.
And I said, he's like, it's nice to finally meet you. Yeah. And then we were walking back, and he's like, kind of upset with you. And I'm like, what did I do? And he's like, you didn't have us in your final field of 64, like not even like first four out. You just had us completely off the like image. You were done with us. You gave up on us. And I'm just like, man, next year I'll put you as my national champion. Will that make you feel better? And he's just like, he chuckled that one off. So Zion, if you're watching, clip everything I've said and just play it on repeat. And that's when next year, when you hit 30 dingers and our AC Player of the Year, just remember the hater, Micah. Just remember that.
Damn, I can't wait to see him play next year, man. Like, you got me so hyped up for Zion Rose next year. I'm excited.
And he's going to be fully concentrating on being an outfielder. I think that, not having to worry about any catching duties or anything like that, I think that's a game changer as well. You don't have to worry about handling a pitching staff or any of that. You can just go out there and catch fly balls, which I know isn't necessarily the easiest thing, but he's already been working on that. I'm super excited for the Zion Rose show next year as well. Nick, do you have any final thoughts on these grades before we move on to the Coastal Division?
No, I think Micah kind of hit it well. I think, it all looks really good. Good job, Micah.
What's your grade for Micah here?
My grade for Micah here. Oh, good question. Well, he hasn't interrupted me today, so
I meant on the grades, but you can grade him.
I know. No, I give Micah an A. It's good.
He's raising his hand.
He is raising his hand. Hold on, Micah. I see your hand. Give me 1 second. I think you make a great point, Monty. Maybe rate Notre Dame a little bit lower. They did have a pop. Like, remember, we were talking about they
we
almost
were all
played
in
their
on Notre
way in.
Dame for like 2 weeks.
Like there was a path, like late April, like mid-April. There was a path for Notre Dame. So I think that might have been fresh in the heads of us. But yes, Micah, question.
I want your opinion on two things. I'm just curious because this is one of the tougher ones to decide.
Okay.
First one being Boston College's overall grade, because obviously they were the worst team in the conference. So I think I was able to justify giving them my lowest grade. But a big part of why I graded them what I did was I thought if we're talking the most frustrating season from a disappointment standpoint, I think it was BC. I know it was a new coaching staff, but I mean, this team was robbed of hosting a regional in 23 and then wasn't really competitive after the middle of April. So I'm curious if you guys think that was fair. But then the other big one, and it stands out the most to me, and I know I'm going to get flack for it when it gets tweeted tomorrow, Monty, is the C+ grade for the bullpen for Florida State. Because that one to me was really tough because I wanted to give it I thought about giving it a B- because you had multiple arms that performed well. You saw a good Armstrong, you saw a good Abraham, you saw a good Joe Charles. Just go down the list. You saw good versions of them, but there was no sense of consistency. So I graded them similar to Clemson because it kind of felt like that was what was also Clemson's kryptonite. So I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are on that C+ for Florida State.
I'll start with Florida State because the answer for me on the Boston College side is I have no problem with the grade you gave them. Florida State, I probably would have given a B- to the bullpen. Brennan Oxford until the very end, until the postseason, he wasn't that poor, and then he kind of got beat up in the postseason a bit. Trying to think, they had another big arm at the end of that bullpen that I'm struggling to think about. It must have been Charles. But yeah, by the way, June says cook up Micah. But yeah, it's I would have given them a B-.
Wait, what was that? What was the thing? I didn't hear it. What'd you say? Oh, thanks.
So that's my answer. Oh, it was Holtz, Connor Holtz. There we go. Thank you. Yeah. I was losing. I was like, I knew there was other. He had a really good season, but other than those two guys, I didn't have much faith in the consistency of the others. And then obviously in the postseason, Oxford, I guess, kind of fell apart a little bit. But I still would have given him a B-. But yeah, you might catch some flack for that. But I don't think it's egregious because of the fact that we're arguing over a B- or a C+. It's not like we're arguing that it
would have been a B- if Florida State wanted to stay in the ACC.
Yeah, there you go. Nick, answer is 2 questions.
No problem with BC. I think I give BC a little slack because of the coaching change, and they kind of had to reset a little bit. So I'm fine with that. And then the C+ grade for the Florida State's bullpen. It's really weird because you would have, before the postseason, you probably would have had them at a B+ almost with how their depth was, but the struggles towards the end were alarming and they were just showing all signs of struggle right there in front of you. So I might have gone B- maybe, but it's nothing egregious. I think that's a fair grade, which is how the drop off for me for Florida State has just been, it just went down.
And the Clemson series just lives rent free in my head. I've never seen
there's that too.
Disastrous bullpen performance in a 3-game series.
Carson really Dorsey, our buddy, who apparently struggled mightily out of the bullpen, gave up the 2 grand slams to Blake Wright.
Yeah,
both of them. Yeah. I still can't believe that you left him in there in the same situation the second time after.
Fool me once, shame on me. Yeah. Fool me twice, shame on you.
But also props to Carson Dorsey for coming back from that and having an outstanding year and getting drafted after. I mean, because that could have just completely just crippled you.
I don't know if I'd have been able to hang my head for a while or pick my head back up. So good for him.
Yeah. All right. So any other questions before we move on to mine?
No.
All right. The Coastal The ACC Coastal Division grades, UNC gets the top marks with an A. Virginia gets an A-. That might have been a little bit harsh, but I mean, they haven't won in Omaha since 2021, and they've been there 3 times. Duke, B+, Georgia Tech with a B. Virginia Tech, this one might be the biggest surprise. I gave them a B-. We have to take into account the whole season. Miami, C+. They really got bailed out there by their run in the ACC tournament. I think that's what ultimately led to the C+. And then Pitt comes in with a C. Nick, I'll give you the first shot at this because you're the judge that hasn't done any grades. But what are your thoughts on this? What jumps out to you first?
I think right off the bat, the bottom 3 teams. I think I probably would have. Actually, what kind of jumps out at me a little bit is Miami. That rotation with the B. I would not have given them a B. No, I'm sorry, not the rotation. I completely read that wrong. But the rotation, a little high. I thought I was reading bullpen B. I was like, Monty, what are you doing?
No. They have one arm. They have one arm in the bullpen.
For a second. Yeah. Sorry. But no, I think the bottom 3 teams, man, I think I would have rated each one a little bit lower. I know you're considering all of Virginia Tech season, which is fair, but the games that the series that they won were, I mean, their best series, I think, was Louisville, right? Did they beat Louisville? Remember they had like the 4.
They beat Louisville.
Yeah. So I think I would have had their overall grade a little lower. Miami, I think I'm just really harsh on Miami because I was kind of high on them going into the season. So
I gave them a better grade because of that ACC championship run where they ended up being 1 win, or ACC semifinal run where they ended up being 2 wins away from. They were leading Duke going into the 7th inning. Right. Looking like they might make a championship appearance. So they got a little bit. Plus, that rotation was so good. All 3 of their rotation guys got drafted in the top 4 rounds.
Right. Yeah.
Which is insane considering they barely even made the ACC tournament.
Yeah. So I think I would have been a little bit more harsh on Miami. I think I would have given their offense a little bit of a lower grade. And Pitt, that's tough, man.
Kane's Cats Heat must not be watching anymore because he when we first started, he had stuff to say, but now that we're talking about Miami, he's not saying anything. So he must have gone to sleep.
His loss.
One of the rare times.
Does he sleep? Does he sleep?
I don't know, but this might be the only time I've seen where he's not there.
Remember after the AC something in the ACC tournament, you and I hopped on and he was still on.
The UNC Wake Forest game that was so good. But
That's right. Oh my God. Yeah, so I think bottom 3 teams I would have rated a little bit lower. Again, I'm harder on Miami because I was high on them. But other than that, your top 4, I mean, I love where you have Georgia Tech. Solid B. They exceeded some expectations. Some guys thought that they could make it to regionals, and they did. So I'm happy with that. The bullpen and the rotation, solid improvement from last year.
Solid improvement from the middle of the season.
Yeah, I mean, they just continue to get better and better. For any team in the ACC where I wish the season had gone longer for a team was Georgia Tech. And then your top 3, Duke, Virginia, Carolina. I like that. I mean, you got your 2 Omaha teams on top. And Duke, man, were they disappointing in the regionals? I mean, that we all thought it was a blessing in disguise that they were in Norman, but unfortunately, the bats were not there for them. So I like your list. I like your top 4 a lot.
Thank you. With Georgia Tech, yeah, the rotation, once they got Finateri and Cam Jones there on Friday and Saturday nights, and then you had Tate McKee. There we go. I was trying to think of the Sunday guy. Tate McKee having every other week be really good. They really solidified, I think, enough to be a B-. And then that helped the bullpen with, Dawson Brown and Riley Stanford and guys like that stepped up. But Micah, what are your thoughts on this list?
I have 2 flops or flips or whatever changes I would make. I think you have the wrong team at the bottom of the grades. I think Miami should be at the bottom. I don't think 2 wins over Louisville and Clemson should put them at a C+. Pitt was better than Miami this year, in my opinion. Pitt won the series down the stretch in Coral Gables. especially when you factor in expectations, talent level, all that stuff. Fair or not. Again, we grade differently, right? So that's just my opinion. I think Pitt at the bare minimum should have the same grade as Miami. The rotation for Miami was better. I would argue the offense at Pitt was better. I mean, it was Cuvée and then who else?
Jason Torres kind of. Well,
I wasn't overly impressed with, like, Miami had multiple games where they scored 3 runs in ACC play. So like the difference of a C+ and a B is pretty large. So again, just my opinion on that one. I think if you give Pitt the pool that Miami got, they might go 2-0 too, which is how Clemson was playing. And again, like, I think Miami got some swagger punching, again, kudos to them, right, for punching Louisville in the mouth on that first game of the ACC tournament. But there was some momentum to that. But and I also would throw some flack that Virginia should have a better grade than North Carolina, or at least, again, maybe not better, right, because they're both A and A minus. But I think Virginia and North Carolina should have equal grades. Virginia's bullpen B seems, I guess, somewhat fair, but I just think that Virginia, offensively had a better statistical offense than North Carolina did, if I remember correctly from what I looked at, all those stats. And again, I think Virginia going 0-2 in Omaha has to factor in a little bit, but Virginia and North Carolina battled to the very end in game 1. So, again, you run that game back, and I think Virginia might win that one. And then you run the game back again, then I think North Carolina might win that one. So I just think that they should have had equal grade.
Can you believe this? For 6 months, this guy, not 6, 4 months, this guy is anti-Virginia, negative, and then all of a sudden, now he's like, now the season's over, and he's all positive about it because there's no games for them to lose now.
Basically, you should have heard him in football season with the head coach, man. All of a sudden, he turned around on Virginia's head coach for football.
Jeez.
We're winning the Natty this year, boys, in football and baseball. But no, again, like, just small nitpicky things. I actually really like the Virginia Tech grade. I think too, like, it stinks that the season fell the way it did, but the way they bounced back, and Monty, you've been on it from the very beginning. The key injury of our man is the difference, in my opinion, from Virginia Tech probably being a tournament team.
Yeah,
we're seeing what he's doing on the Cape.
Yeah, and he's walking a ton. Like, oh man, I think his Cape performance is going to be huge. Getting him back into game. He's game ready because he hasn't played all spring. But yeah, I think Michelle being out. That extra offense, that extra huge scary bat plays a difference down the stretch, especially when they're trying everything they can to stop losing and they just can't figure it out.
Yeah, I'm hoping to maybe catch the Hokies in the fall because I just want to see him and see how he looks. Because he's just been so good on the Cape, and I think, again, is he the difference in all the games? No, but think about the amount of times they just needed one big hit, and he could have provided that for them. I think, again, at the end of the day, there was some pitching. Heck, the way that Duke game was going, right? Like, in the ACC tournament, I'm sorry, I should have probably been more clear. Like, you're kind of right there. So yeah, I actually really like that grade. I think the Virginia or Georgia Tech grade is very fair as well. I would have given them an A, obviously, because they're the best.
See, that's why you didn't want to grade them, so that way you could say this when we did it.
But no, I think what I like the most, Monty, is I think if we ask some of these guys, like players, coaches of these teams, if our grades were fair, I think a lot of them would agree. I think if you ask some of these Georgia Tech guys the grade, I think they would say B is fair. They made the tournament. They made it to a regional final, but they know they're capable of more. Same thing with Duke, right? Like, Duke should have been in a super at the bare minimum, right? Just how talented that team was. Like, B+ seems fair for a team, unfortunately, who saw their season end in regional play. And technically, their season ended before Georgia Tech did.
Yeah,
so
Duke, Florida State in the supers would have been electric.
Yeah, that honestly. Imagine Duke having to go on the road back-to-back years to ACC foes in Omaha.
Yeah, Omaha. But they did go to, and they'd already played Florida State 4 times.
Yeah. So, what's a fifth, sixth, and maybe seventh time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, I think all of these is very fair. I love the D plus for Miami's bullpen just because like it really was. I mean, that was their Achilles heel, and it wasn't even particularly close.
Well, that's why that's why poor Gage Zeal and Rafe Schlesinger had to go like 7 or 8 innings every week. Like,
I mean, heck, even Henrik Hernandez, right?
Hernandez, him too. Like they would leave him out there for 6, 7 innings.
Yeah, it was
even though he'd given up like 6 runs.
Yeah,
so it's brutal.
But he's he's given up 6 in 6 innings, but the bullpen might give up that in 1. So you're going back out there for the 7th.
So yeah, but I mean, obviously, didn't hurt his draft stock too much. Top 4 rounder. With the other 2 members of the rotation. That's just shocking. I just laughed when I saw they all got drafted that highly because I was like, they barely made the ACC tournament, and in Micah's mind would have been the worst graded team in the Coastal, which is pretty funny when they had that good of a rotation.
Yeah.
Question for the panel:
Pitt had a pretty good rotation too. You were a little harsh on that C+ with Sokol and of course I'm drawing
Andre.
Yeah, Andre, thank you.
Who was their third guy though?
I
know Ryan Reed.
Oh yeah, I should have known that. I should have known. And then best bullpen arm in college baseball. You're in a C bullpen with Phil Fox.
He got drafted though.
He did.
What was a bigger I guess waste or missed opportunity? The starting rotation Miami had, or like the talent Wake Forest had? And where in your mind was that worse for you guys? The fact that those 3 guys got drafted in the top 4 rounds, or Wake starting off with like 5 top 25 prospects and didn't make it out of regional.
I'd say it's Miami because they didn't even sniff the postseason. They had a losing record on the year.
Right.
I'm on the other end of the spectrum. I would say Wake, and I don't think it's close. We're talking about a one, like it's never happened. No team. Yeah, Opal agrees too. No team has had 3 top 10 picks.
They still made a regional.
Yeah, you're right, but they did nothing with it, and it's just it's just. I mean, they were the 10 seed in the ACC tournament, Monty. Like, let's not pretend like they weren't also like had a pretty rough ACC slate too. Like, and that's what cost them hosting a regional for everyone I've talked to. So I would say, and again, like the rotation for Miami was good, but I mean, was it the best rotation in the ACC? Because if it is, then maybe we can have that conversation. But if it's not, then I mean, it was a good rotation for sure, and it's frustrating. But it's also year 1 too with a new coach, so I think there's some
the new coach excuse again.
Too. So
he's been there forever, though.
No, true, very true. So
it was a good question, Nick. Micah and I will agree to disagree.
Actually, the answer is clearly Wake because they eat at Dioli's, and Dioli's is supposed to give you superpowers. So, Nick, actually, you're the biggest disappointment because you didn't give Wake Forest the superpowers they needed to get to Omaha with your Dioli's. Like you put all the goodies in someone else's food instead of the Wake guys. So it's actually your fault, Nick.
Yeah. You know what? It's because Lucas transferred. That's why.
Yeah, you cursed them both. It really is the Nick Dioli effect.
Well, that's gonna finish it up for our final grades.
Oh, final grades. I was gonna say the end of the show because I wanted to pose a fun question.
I was gonna say the show's not over, but the final grades are. I had a couple more questions as well. My first one was going to be, which team are we now that the draft is over, transfer portal's over. We're going to find out who signs by August 1st, but many of them have already signed. Which team are we most excited about for fall ball? I'll start with you, Nick. I already see Micah's picking one of his many options for the one team he's excited about.
Oh, man.
Tennessee.
Actually, A&M has the same hat, so gig 'em.
Gig 'em. Oh, man. The mayor of Aggietown. Micah.
You're gonna say my last name, or were you struggling there? Did you freeze?
No, I just pretended I froze because I struggled. I forgot how to pronounce it correctly. I was like Butel.
That a boy, Nick.
But the U comes after the E. That doesn't make any sense. Or whatever.
There's a story behind it. I'll tell you the story off.
Wait, there's a story. Okay, interesting.
My last name is not my actual last name. But that's why fun fact, I'm the only Micah Butel that has ever lived. That's your fun fact, according to Ancestry.com. I'm literally a one of one.
Same.
Well, I already knew that.
You're not a one of one. There's another Nicholas Fioli out there. I know there is. Somewhere down the grapevine. No, I've never met a Monty Taylor. I doubt there's another Monty Taylor.
Nick goes same.
You're definitely not, Nick. I'm willing to bet you a lot of money.
All right, Nick, which team were you most excited about?
I mean, I don't want to be biased, but man, I'm really excited for my Wolfpack. Like they got all these.
You're a Wake Forest guy. I'm confused.
Stop that nonsense.
Oh, we're clipping that. We are clipping that. Oh,
kidding. No, I'm really excited for my NC State Wolfpack. They got a lot of guys returning. I'm excited for Duden. I'm excited what Alex Sosa is going to bring to the table.
What about friend of the program, Ryan Jaros?
Man, I'm so hyped for this 2025 ball club and going into fall ball. Like, it's going to be very, very fun. They got a lot of returning production coming back. It's going to be really great. I mean, I remember, Micah, when we interviewed Grayson, he had mentioned it's not this year. It's going to be next year where we get really excited for like maybe State to win the ACC. I know you guys are talking in the private chat, but I'm trying to focus. And you guys have these smirks on your faces if people are not watching and listening. No, but I'm excited for State. I mean, they got a lot of returning production. They hit the portal pretty well. It's going to be very exciting.
Micah?
It's Georgia Tech. I love Kyle Lodise. That's a fantastic addition. Obviously, friend of Monty's now because he's out here just dropping absolute, like, yeah, I saw this meme multiple times talking how great Monty is with the meme. But, on a serious note, though, Monty, you've watched the Cape more than anyone, or the three of us at least. He's been impressive to say the least, right? For them to step up in competition. Right? He could be the next Seaver King from an ACC standpoint.
Yeah, and he was only supposed to be a temporary player, I think, at the beginning of the season, and he
stuck around. He's been so good, and I think, fair or not, right? The best player in the ACC is Drew Burris. I think coming back, it's a fair at least to put him at the top. Him or the two guys on our screen right now, Cam Canarella and those that is Henry Ford, right? I'm not tripping.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure it wasn't like, yeah, and that's actually not who I was talking about. But those three are right there. I think the pitching staff is going to be better. I really think Vaughn Lackey behind the dish is going to take a huge step forward for Georgia Tech as well. I really like what I saw from him down the stretch. I can't remember where he's playing in the summer. I need to look and see how he's doing this summer. But I just really like what this Georgia Tech program is doing right now, and that's not even just trying to be biased. I just think they've done a really good job. Like, losing Ryan Jaros is not easy, right? But they've done a good job of kind of filling holes that they need to get. So I really like what they have, because I do think this team is going to build off of what they did last year. And I had some question marks after the season was coming to an end, because you wonder how you're going to replace some of these guys that were leaving. And again, will the pitching staff take a step forward? And I think there's reason to believe that that's the case. I mean, Monty, I don't want to steal yours, so I'll let you go. But there is one team I think that, maybe it's a question you're going to ask later, but who do we feel the best about for next year? And so maybe there would be the correct answer. But I think Georgia Tech as a team, when you ask about the fall, because of all the new additions and just, again, Drew Burris he's been one of the best players in the game, even in the regular season. But he shined for Team USA.
Yeah. Yeah, and he had some good moments in the Cape too, although, there was some overall struggles, but he had some really good moments for YD up there. But I would have gone with one of yours as well. both NC State and Georgia Tech are exciting to me. But I am now trying to decide between Florida State and Virginia. Florida State and Virginia are bringing in a lot of talent in terms of first years and transfers. Virginia, we got to see how Henry Godbout shifts over to shortstop to replace Griff O'Farrell, who is arguably the best shortstop in school history. You've got Didewitt coming back, Jay Wolfett coming back, Jacob Ferentz coming back. Those are three names that you didn't expect to see come back. And then you've got some big name freshmen coming in. But then Florida State, likewise. But now you've got Lodi's and Alex Lodi's, the cousin of Kyle, and then Drew Farrow in the middle of the lineup in the middle of the diamond for Florida State. Cal Fisher, who's going to be a regular starter for them, I would expect. I'm really excited to see him in a full-time role. He had some shining moments as a freshman for Florida State last year. Obviously, Jamie Arnold is gonna come back and be the front runner for ACC Pitcher of the Year. But yeah, those two teams and figuring out who is going to be replaced some of the guys they've lost, because you're looking
at Dorsey back for them, Monty?
No, he got drafted.
Okay.
He was
but they have Leiter, obviously, hopefully coming back.
Leiter, Arnold, John Abraham's looking pretty good in Cape. So you've got some names come back and some big name freshmen coming in. I'm just curious how these two teams are going to replace the guys they lost, the legends they lost. O'Farrell at Virginia, Ethan Anderson at Virginia, and then on the Casey Salke, and then for Florida State, Tibbs, Smith, Dingus unfortunately got drafted as well for that was a guy that was draft eligible.
Unfortunately for Florida State, obviously.
Unfortunately for Florida State. Fortunately for Marco Dingus, congratulations. Yeah. But so they've got Cantu they've got to replace. They got a lot of names to replace, but I'm excited to see how they do it. Jackson West is going to be back as the catcher, and they got Gage Harrelson and Max Williams. I'm just excited to see how it all shakes out in the fall. I'm excited for Georgia Tech and NC State as well. I can't wait to see those programs as well. I just really want to be able to see all of them in the fall. I want to go see them now.
Yeah, right. Speaking of that, Monty, how many guys from Virginia, the Gatorade players, how many signed? I mean, I know a lot of them got drafted, but do we know how many of those 6 they're keeping?
So Aiden Harris, he was not a Gatorade Player of the Year. James Nunnally got drafted, but he's been playing for the Charlottesville Tom Sox since the draft, which makes me think he's coming to campus. Henry Godbout and Henry Ford's teammate Thomas Valencius is coming.
Yeah, I saw that. Okay,
so
that's exciting then. I mean, obviously, I want to see these kids thrive, but sometimes it's selfish, right? Like I hope that they come into UVA and then get drafted higher because of that. So
the big question mark is going to be Trey Gregory Alford, who was the Gatorade Player of the Year for Colorado. He got drafted in the 11th round by the Angels, and they've been going heavily under slot for a lot of guys to probably pay him, but he is not signed as of now.
Come on, Angels. Continue to screw up your most disorganized front office in baseball. Come on, screw this one up for me. Let's go.
Honestly, I thought when UVA got through the first 10 rounds, only losing 3 guys, I thought they were in pretty good shape not to lose anymore, but I forgot about the whole over slot.
Under slot thing.
Yeah, over slot.
That's what's been cool. We've seen a lot of ACC guys actually go over slot, which has been really nice to see, like, the value that some of these guys are getting. Lake, not ACC, but one thing that I found out was really cool was our draft pick at ETSU, Cameron Cisneros, was over, I think it was like $50,000-$60,000 over slot, which is really good because that means, again, the Cubs saw him as a valuable asset, but like was able to get him later, but they still paid him as if they got him earlier. So I do like that kind of side of baseball, but no, I mean, that's awesome. Cool.
Yep. So that's what my question. Micah, you had some fun questions before we.
Well, I was just gonna ask because obviously, right, we had the report cards and we're playing school teachers. Imagine this was 8th grade graduation. We're going to freshman year of high school. Who do you think the most improved student will be, or who are you? Most improved student going into next year. What would be your pick right now? Your most improved team. Just like what you're expecting from what you saw this year to next year.
Oh, this
Player
is
or
easy.
Team.
Stanford.
Okay.
Damn it. I didn't even think about that as an option. We didn't do a report card for them. No transfer students. A kid that moved from California can't be the answer.
Damn it. Then I need more time to think.
Speaking of which, sorry, Monty, I'm going to interrupt you, but I can never say his name right, so I'm not even going to try. He is playing in the Appy League All-Star game tomorrow, and I met him today. Super nice guy. Just wanted to throw that out there. So
The Japanese guy?
Yeah.
Oh.
The Appy League is like, yeah, you've only played in 3 games, but we've got some guys that are banged up. So how about you play?
Yeah, I saw that he got that. I'm assuming his English is pretty good because he's going.
It's not bad. He has a translator, but like he's really
just to be safe. But yeah, I figured if he's going to Stanford, he's got to have a decent grasp.
He has to be able to at least say hello and hold a conversation for a minute or two. Yeah,
right. So that's pretty cool, though.
Well, I'm excited to watch him tomorrow. That's gonna be. I mean, he's not as big as I thought. Like, I mean, I thought he was gonna be like. I don't know why I pictured like this just massive dude. He's very built, but like he wasn't what I expected, which was like I felt bigger than him, which I was not expecting to have happen. So, but anyways, I'm excited about that. So, Monty, I agree with your take, but give me a different answer. I don't like your answer.
Rintaro Sasaki is his name, by the way.
Thank you.
But give it to Nick, so I got to think now because apparently Stanford's not acceptable. Cal.
Show me SMU.
I was just about to say that. Damn it.
They don't have a team. Syracuse.
I know.
Club baseball. Monty.
Syracuse. Let's see. Most improved team from this year to next year. I will say screw it. I'll say Miami, man. I was high on them and they disappointed, and you can't have like Monty's right. I can't have the JD Ortega first year head coach thing anymore as like an excuse. He's been there for a very long time. It's going to be his second year as a head coach. There's no reason why you can't recruit and get the players and get the bullpen back. I want them to be back in the regionals and hopefully host. So I'm putting all my chips on the table in the middle, and I'm going to go with Miami.
What if I told you, Nick, that Mark Like shakes don't have seed oil in them? Well, minus like the peanut butter ones, but I mean, that's kind of like not fair.
I'll take some for the road, man. I got to make them last.
It's my turn.
Louisville.
Damn it.
I knew he was going to go Louisville. I was debating between Miami or Louisville, but I wanted Monty.
You should have let me go Stanford. That's your fault.
I wanted Monty to take it. I'm glad he did.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you did because then you allowed me to say my second option. I was going to say him anyways, but my friends over at Bird Ball are going to be my most improved student. Oh, my hat fell. Oh, what hat fell? Oh, Clemson. Yeah, you can't be most improved. Sorry, Clemson. Dude, I really like what I saw from Kyle Kipp this summer. I think that he might actually step up into the rotation. Obviously, I mean, it can get worse than what it was this past year, but I don't think it will. I think Todd Interdonato has done a great job. They have a top 15 portal class. They've done a really, really good job of what they've done. Todd knows what it takes to win. He just needed some time. You know, obviously there's the struggles of recruiting in the Northeast, but they have the facilities. I mean, I like the guys. I mean, Adam Magpok has a really bright future. I was really glad to see that he didn't enter the portal because I thought the way he played in the Appy this summer, there would be some teams calling. And I mean, it's not like I don't think he's a Northeast kid, if I remember correctly. So, like, you know, I really like what Boston College has coming back. You know, obviously, I'm sad to see the John West era come to an end, and obviously Cameron Leary as well. But there's not a ton with Boston College. I look around and say, man, they've just lost so much. I don't know how they can't get better. So, very, very high on what Boston College could be. Like, I have a fun exercise, Monty, that I'm doing that is so stupid, but I'll just say that Boston College is getting some love in it. We'll put it that way.
Sorry, I was looking up Adam Magpok on the Bird Ball roster, and they don't even have where he's from. It just says he's his relatives and he's an undecided major, and I'm like, that doesn't help me because I was going to tell you if he was Northeast or not.
That's actually really funny. I'm really sad because I really messed up, Monty. I always forget that these kids go home at some point. Like Magpok has gone home, Kip has gone home, Hash is still there from BC, but like Piscarita, but I can never say his name right, but from Pitt,
Piscarita.
Yeah, like he's gone. So like there's a lot of these AC. I mean, Curse obviously went home from Georgia Tech. So shout out to Carson. Should have been an all-star, but I digress. Just it was really cool to see those guys though this summer kind of play at the level that they are capable of and whatnot. But I really like what BC is bringing back / bringing in from the portal.
Yeah. Yep. So, all right.
All right. Here you go. Here's your chance, everyone. Way too early. Claim your team for 2025. Who are you hyping up? Nick is a Miami Hurricane. We're going to get him connected to where he becomes the hype guy for the Canes. Monty, what team are you adopting as your team?
I'm hyping everybody.
Oh my gosh. Except for Miami.
Except for, for some reason, Miami. No, it's hard for me to tell right now. I mean, obviously there's so many that I love, but to narrow it down to one's tough right now. What would you say was the team I hyped up most last year?
Duke.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, whichever team gives me the access that Duke gave me, I'm in.
I'm trying to think who that would. I will say, Nick, if you can get the access to Miami, you should just move down there and just become the biggest Miami fan of all time. Because cherish that moment. Miami, I love you. I respect everything that you do. But, man, your program is easily the most hard to access. We didn't do ourselves any favors. I'll admit that. Absolutely. That's partially on me and on Nick. But, at the same time, it is kind of fun that of all the teams that we're hyping up, it's Nick's hyping up the Canes. But no, it's
obviously Georgia Tech, somebody I'd love to hype up.
And see, Monty, I'm upset with you because I was giving you a chance to say Stanford again, and you just chose not to do it. So, because Monty loves Stanford.
I can hype up Stanford.
That's gonna be my team. I'm taking Cal. I'm gonna be a Cal. I'm gonna be the hype guy for the Cal Golden Bears. I'm gonna hype them up. They're gonna be on the bubble, and I'm gonna be creating videos on why the Cal Golden Bears are NCAA tournament bound teams. And then I'm gonna be flown out to like the Corvallis Regional. I'm going wherever they go, and then I'm just gonna.
Jaron Advancula is having a great summer on the Cape. I think he leads the league in average, near 400.
Do you feel that? And I think we're all in agreement with this. We feel like the ACC got better by adding those teams, right? I know like there's a lot of outlandish stuff about how they affect football and all that other stuff, but from a baseball standpoint, the ACC got better, right?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, adding Stanford alone. I mean, and Cal's got a decent team. I know they were.
Do you think both teams finish in the top 10 of the ACC?
Yes.
Okay. And then the other thing I need to
definitely does. Cal's the one I'm like, I don't know enough about Cal right now.
I also need to text John, but I'm just going to go ahead and do an early moment of silence for the Atlantic and Coastal divisions.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It's got to be dead. There's no way, right? Like
I'm pretty sure they're dead. Yeah.
So
I'll say something else that's dead. The pool play, it's dead.
It ain't dead.
You don't think it's going to be dead? How are they going to do that?
And the wise
words
of the Wolf of Wall Street himself, I'm leaving.
You'd still have 12 teams make it. You just have 4 teams miss the tournament now.
Correct.
Oh, but that's no fun.
Or do you want to go to the SEC thing where they do like the single elimination? Like I'm more curious like the SEC or the Big 12 are going to do with like their weird numbers they've got.
And you mean the Big 10? Well, no, Big 12.
They're all weird.
Yeah. Big 10's all of a sudden.
I'm curious how the Oregon State tournament's going to go.
The Pac-2 is just them and Washington State playing.
Washington State's Mountain West for baseball. Remember?
Oh, is it? Oh, I didn't.
Or West Coast or West.
It's one of those. One of those.
It's one of those. Yeah.
They already picked the conference for baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Did not know that.
I've already brought the Pac-12 back multiple times in college football 25. I'm not ready for the new conferences until we actually get into football here.
I'm not ready in general. Like, I've been working on some of the football stuff for our Just Means Less page, and I'm just like it's fun to joke about SMU and Cal and Stanford joining, and obviously we'll hype them up too. But like, it just feels wrong. It feels so disgusting. Like that, I'm thinking about Cal at Wake on a Friday night in November, or like the fact that Stanford is opening the season with TCU, and we have it's one of the bigger ACC non-conference games week 1.
How am I supposed to get excited for
What?
Northwestern USC?
Yeah, like it's so like it still hasn't hit me like UCLA USC being Big Ten. Like that's just weird. Like it's a Big Ten SEC matchup when UCLA goes to LSU.
I still haven't gotten used to Maryland and Rutgers being in the Big Ten.
I mean, facts.
We still got Maryland in our graphic.
They're coming home one day. I can dream. Monty hates Maryland.
I do.
Monty hates schools with the name M. That's what I'm learning. I think it's kind of personal, Monty. You hate Miami. You hate Maryland. You probably hate the Miami, Ohio Redhawks, too, just because they have the name Miami.
Nope, my cousin went there.
Roll Hawks, but okay, well. Anyway.
Mid-Tennessee State, I like them.
I got to give a shout-out to Chinook. I have some – well, when we get off, I'll have to tell you guys what's going on. But I want to do a little seed review because I've never done it before or never had it. The Hatch Chili Chinook Seedery. So we're gonna do that review, and you guys can watch that for 30 seconds. You guys can talk if you want while I open this bag. But
the cinnamon toast is better.
I mean, cinnamon toast is my favorite, but
I'm so you've had some of the seeds, you just haven't had the.
This is the only flavor I've not had. It's one of the newer ones, but I've heard great things about it. So
here we go. That quick, huh?
That is so good. By the way, Monty, I never posted our food reviews in Omaha.
You just posted
some random summer content or fall content, but
I knew you hadn't. But I was like, whatever.
7.9. It's not better than cinnamon toast, but this is by far the best non-sweet flavor. Shout out to Chinook Seedery, best seeds in the game, hands down. Not even like a sponsorship thing, just genuinely my opinion. It was nice to hang out with those guys for a little bit tonight, but yeah, go get yourself a bag.
All right, that's going to wrap up our show. Any final thoughts, Nick? All right, good. No, go ahead, Nick.
Jeez, man. No, I'm happy to be back with you guys. It's been too long, so it felt good to be back. I was looking forward to this all day. Great season, Monty. Thank you again for letting Micah and I hop on and join you and the CBC team. It's been so much fun, so I can't wait for next year. And if you're a person who just discovered me and Micah, we do a lot of ACC football content, so look out for that within the next few weeks. We do podcasts, a little bit of basketball, not a lot, but football and baseball have been our bread and butter. But we'll tweet out basketball. We will talk some basketball here and there if something big happens.
Is
like
Micah
the
even
Final
a
Four
UVA
runs
fan?
and stuff like that. So what?
Micah, is he even a UVA fan if you guys don't talk a ton of basketball?
And Micah was very mad at UVA basketball this year. He was mad that they made the tournament. He didn't want to talk about it, and I don't blame him.
That's because he actually hates UVA. He was mad.
They were Virginia basketball this year was like America's like villain. Like they didn't want to see them in the tournament.
Micah's villain.
But yeah, so look, if you're new here and you've discovered Micah and I, football content's coming out pretty soon, so we're looking forward to that.
Yep. Micah, any final thoughts? All right,
These
good stuff.
These are really, really good. But no, that's it.
All right. Well, we've got more content coming this week. We're going to release those grades and the articles tomorrow morning. So look out for that. I'm hopefully having a Cape Cod episode this week with the one and only Grace Nugent she works for the Cape Cod and works for Inside Carolina. So she is an ACC person just like us. And other than that, we'll have hopefully more content coming throughout the year. And as Micah and Nick shift to football, make sure you check out their stuff on the Just Means Less page. Anyway, that's it. We will see you on the flip side.